Prime Minister Modi and French President Emmanuel Macron have now paid homage to Indian soldiers at Marseille. In fact, both the leaders paid homage to Indian soldiers who lost their lives in World War I and World War II. All right, so this, of course, is the Prime Minister's visit. You also saw the Prime Minister earlier, the AI Action Summit as well, who, of course, he was co-chairing it. And again, thanked Emmanuel Macron for inviting him. And now this is the Prime Minister and the French President at the Marseille War Cemetery, where, of course, they paid homage to Indian soldiers, the fallen Indian soldiers from World War I and World War II. All right, so we, of course, continue to get you all the details about the Prime Minister's visit there. He's, of course, visiting the War Cemetery with French President Emmanuel Macron. These are the visuals there of the Prime Minister, of course, visiting and paying tribute to soldiers who made their sacrifices fighting in the Great War, the World War I and the World War II. In fact, the Prime Minister, as you saw, also laid a wreath composed of tricolour-themed flowers as well. In fact, a large number of Indian soldiers are commemorated in this war cemetery that is maintained by the Commonwealth War Graves Commission, CWGC. Just to give you a background of this, Prime Minister is right now on a 3-day visit to France. In fact, on Tuesday, he also co-chaired the AI Action Summit along with President Emmanuel Macron, and he also addressed business leaders from across the world. In fact, he arrived in Paris on February 10. And this, of course, is a major part of India's history globally as well. Like I said, Indian soldiers who took part in the world wars are commemorated here. And the Prime Minister Modi, as you just saw there, the wreath that he's laid there in the war cemetery is a tri-colored one, paying tribute to all those soldiers who fought for the greater cause and, of course, represented India in the Great War. All right, so of course, these are visuals there that we're getting right now. A massive moment. The Prime Minister on a very major visit to France as well. And this particular war cemetery that you're seeing there, where the Prime Minister is visiting, holds a very significance, high historical significance for India. It, in fact, served as the base of Indian troops in France as well during the First World War. My colleague Shreya joins us on the broadcast to help us understand more on this. Shreya, this, of course, is a war cemetery that holds a very high importance, a historical importance for India as well. When you look at Indian history, the World War I and World War II as well. Help us understand the itinerary of the Prime Minister, what's on agenda, and also the importance of this particular visit and the message that Prime Minister Modi is trying to send out.
That's right, Ashish. Extremely crucial visit of the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi. He's at the War Cemetery. He paid homage a short while back, and now he's inaugurated the Indian Consulate as well, along with the French President Emmanuel Macron. As you were saying, the War Cemetery is important to India because several Indian soldiers who fought in the World War I and II have been laid to rest there. And the Indian Prime Minister, back in 2018, when he was visiting France, had said that even though India was not directly part of these world wars, there was a contribution from the Indian side as well. So the Indian Prime Minister there paying homage to soldiers who had laid down their lives. After that, the two leaders inaugurated the Indian Consulate in a location called Marseille, where the two leaders are currently. This is strategically important in terms of the trade that goes on between India and France and several other countries from that particular route. And also, of course, a lot of Indians who live there will benefit from the kind of services that the Consulate General will provide to the citizens there, to particularly the NRIs there. As far as the itinerary of the Prime Minister is concerned, Ashish, next up, the Indian Prime Minister will be visiting, along with the French President Emmanuel Macron, a thermonuclear experimental project, which is called ITER, International Thermonuclear Experimental Project, of which about 7 to 8 countries are members of, India and France included. This is extremely crucial as far as the agreement and the MOUs that are signed between India and France are concerned, nuclear energy being one of the most crucial aspects and sectors in which both countries are moving forward and want to solidify their partnership. Later on, of course, he's going to be getting a military farewell as he departs for Washington, D.C. The other leg of his visit, which will be in United States of America, but extremely crucial visit of the Indian Prime Minister, because this comes at a time when the entire world is looking at the U.S. with Donald Trump coming in, and the
Shreya,
kind
we are
of
also getting live visuals
relationship
right
that
now
the two
of
countries
Modi
have
and Macron
shared,
unveiling
which
the
will
Indian
be
Consulate as well. Help us understand the importance of this, because we've seen how under these two leaders the ties between India and France have continued to soar, and this again is a major milestone that will bring a great relief to a lot of people who continue to travel between India and France, and even those that are actually staying in France.
That's right. This is an important Indian Consulate General which is being inaugurated by both the leaders, the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi as well as French President Emmanuel Macron. Extremely important to understand also the fact that it is being inaugurated at a very strategically important location of Marseille, which is, a center point for a lot of trade that goes on between the two countries, as well as India, France, and the rest of the world, the trade routes being very important there. So one is that it is geostrategically extremely important for India to have a consulate general there. Second, of course, a lot of Indians that stay in France will benefit from the kind of visa services or the kind of challenges they face there. They will get resolved with the Indian consulate general being inaugurated there. Of course, India and France, as we know, have had a decades-old relationship. It is a comprehensive strategic partnership between the two countries. We've had defense partnerships in the past, including that of Rafale jets. But we'll have to see in a short while from now, the two leaders will also be signing agreements between the two countries. More details of that will trickle in as to what was decided between India and France this time around. Extremely crucial visit because India is looking to solidify its partnership with France, considering also the fact that after this, Prime Minister Narendra Modi will be traveling to the United States of America and meeting Donald Trump, who is at the Oval Office for a second time. So that relationship will also influence the kind of relationship that India might have in the near future with European countries, including France. And of course, the kind of agreements that are signed, whether it's nuclear energy or defense, whether or not we'll have more Rafales coming in from France is a question that will be answered once we get details of the agreements that were signed between India and France. Ashish.
Absolutely. Shreya, you were also touching upon the important visit in the US as well. India, of course, Prime Minister Modi will become the fourth leader, I believe, to visit President Trump as well after his second inauguration. But meanwhile, keeping that aside, speaking of this particular visit now by the Prime Minister, we've seen in the past as well how important France has been when it comes to global affairs, the important role that Emmanuel Macron has also played. Do you think this sort of a visit by the Prime Minister and also the kind of friendship that he shares with not just leaders like Trump or Netanyahu, but also with leaders like Macron, how much do you think actually brings an advantage to India when it comes to global affairs? Because India now is emerging to be a very strong global voice.
Absolutely, Ashish, and that is something that, India has displayed over the past several years as well, as far as the entire conflicts that have come to the fore, whether we talk about the Russia-Ukraine war or the Israel-Hamas war. India has walked a very tight diplomatic tightrope, but it has been very successful and smooth in the kind of execution that it has had in terms of the diplomacy and the relationship that it has with the conflicting sides. Now, with Donald Trump coming in, of course, there are a lot of concerns and how India's relationship with the European Union will pan. India and France, remember, have had a solid, healthy, constructive relationship so far, and it hasn't been largely influenced by very major moves by the United States of America. India, of course, maintains that it has an independent foreign policy, something that it has successfully displayed as well. But from here on, We'll have to see, what France brings to the table as far as India's needs are concerned. Remember, defense partnership is a very crucial aspect of this relationship. So we'll have to wait and watch, as I said earlier, whether more Rafale jets will be coming in from the side of France. But India holds France as a very important partner in the larger scheme of things. It's an important European Union country. We've had to deal with Russia-Ukraine war as well as Israel-Hamas. You mentioned Prime Minister Netanyahu. Those dynamics really playing out, not directly impacting the India-France relationship, but having an influence on this equation as well. So we'll have to wait and watch how this relationship goes on in the near future. But of course, the two sides being extremely optimistic about where they want to take this relationship, which is to further solidify and make it into a healthy, constructive relationship that we have had with France so far.
Absolutely, Shreya. Very interesting week ahead with, of course, very important meetings as well as also visits lined up by the Prime Minister, now headed to US as well. Really appreciate you joining us on the broadcast here, putting this entire thing into context, helping us understand the significance of this visit by the Prime Minister. All right, viewers, on that note, let's quickly slip into a short break. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.